3, my name is Scott Burns. I'm co-chair of Budget and Appropriations. I'll call the meeting to order for tonight, which includes public facilities. I have the committee members introduce themselves, then other council reps, and then the representatives from the city side. So,
I'm Ernie, I'm co-chair of the Budget Committee.
Committee member, 136.
Jeanette Harris, committee member.
Amy Marie Vizzo Panicia, Councilman 134th, Budget Appropriations Committee member.
Did?
Nina Martinez, 139.
Okay. That's all the council reps, right? All right, so Constance, why don't you lead us off and we'll work. Just identify yourself,
Just my name.
please.
Okay. Constance Vickers, Deputy Chief of Staff.
I'm glad that's here.
Michelle Otaro, Public Facilities.
Okay. Mr.
Burgos,
Burgos?
Director of Public Facilities.
Okay.
Fred G, WTL.
Paul Camino, Public Facilities.
Aaron Curry, Deputy Director of Public Facilities.
Joe Tiago, Deputy Public Facilities.
Okay. And I would like us to acknowledge or remember Mary Bell Hassan, who helped us in the past and is looking to help the Budget Committee again to get through our cycle. So,
Welcome back and thank you.
We have the Jacksons taking care of us.
Pastor Barry Jackson of Victory Productions.
Pastor Linda Jackson, Victory Productions.
All right, very good. So, you want to say something?
Yeah, let
Go
me,
ahead.
repeat what I said before. Now, I'm guilty. I am so guilty. Should be sticking to the numbers. And sometimes old age sets in. And, but no, really, we want to talk about the numbers and staffing in the departments. So we'll get an idea on what you need and how we can help. So let's keep it to the numbers. Before we get told them, don't get mad. That
Exactly.
goes for me, so I won't get mad. I'll get even, no, let me stop. I apologize.
All right, very good. Yes, so we'll check each other.
Yeah.
So we just received from Mr. Burgos a handout. So why don't we exhibit this, and then Mr. Burgos and company want to address it? That would be great.
I will exhibit public facilities presentation at 04242025A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. That's exhibited. Mr. Burgos, do you have an extra one?
Absolutely.
I need one for the record. That's good. All right, very good. So, Louis, do you want to speak to this or take us through it, and then?
It's not, I don't even know. Do we have it on the?
Yeah, I think we'll
We already
just
have it.
play along on paper, which is old school. It's all good.
Louis is very shy if you all haven't picked up
Yeah,
on
we
that
know.
yet.
Well, he's got the suit on now, he's gotta speak.
I don't want to call it shy.
Oh.
Moving speed. So if it goes to the, public facilities, the board request, basically what some of the requests that we are requesting for this upcoming year. Basically, we want to, concentrate on, as you can see here, the capital sidewalks increase. We can talk about the numbers, when you guys are ready for it. Also, we're requesting for the capital payment increase. As you guys know, this year we are getting ready to do some paving this year. Fortunately, due to some issues that we were having, trying to get things, to the city attorney, most likely things are gonna get pushed back, the paving, but most likely we're gonna, execute that, for this upcoming year. Something that we talked about, yesterday when it came to the increase, and the seasonal budget for the roadway seasonals, we pretty much on the same, maybe similar to, the issues that we're facing at the Parks Department, in which, you know, it is vital, you know, it's a necessity for us to have that increase on the roadway seasonals, due to the fact that if we are to live within the budget, as we all know, we pretty much will be starting at the negative. You know, if we can get that increase, definitely would, you know, have us in a good place to at least try to maintain the services that we currently are, offering to the residents and your constituents. Finally, the last one is just for the full-time positions, in which we have, even though we had a, you know, good amount of full-time positions that we wanted to ask. However, you know, being understanding of the budget, we're trying to cut it down. Which we will be talking about that coming up. If you guys go to the following page, that's pretty much the org that we are as of now. The Public Facilities Administration org. I don't know if you have any questions. You guys can review it. So basically, it just states the staff as they are now. Also, the vacant positions are. If you have any, you guys have any questions on that?
Councilman Jones?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I'm looking at public facilities, fiscal year 26, and I'm looking at these vacancies that you all say office manager, project managers, assistant project coordinators. What do they do that would require that you need it? I mean, what does this assistant special project coordinator do that you all need? It's on page where it says new positions required.
Oh, you're on the following page.
Yeah, I'm on the PowerPoint, yeah.
We were on the ordinance.
So explain maybe to the committee why these positions are necessary in your department as the.
He didn't get here yet.
Well, he just mentioned, he mentioned
So you just looking out.
that we need the vacancies filled, and help me understand why these vacancies are important to your department.
So, I'm just gonna jump over the first one, the office manager. We're gonna go into the two project managers that are needed.
Yep.
You know, we show add to that. So the two project managers, basically, we have a significant amount of projects right now, and we don't have the staff to get those projects up and running. That's one of the things that we need these project managers to kind of lead.
Explain some projects that you have, so I'll understand what your project managers do. That you just said you don't have them to get your projects, what projects that you.
You want me to?
Yeah, that's for to Michelle.
So the intention of the two project managers is to build out the construction services division. So this is, I need two bodies, specifically, you know, I need one to help with oversight in school construction. As you guys know, we're wrapping up Bassett, we're jumping into John Winthrop, there's potential of 2 more schools coming out. So, you know, I definitely need hands on deck for that. And then the other one would also serve to do some of the other projects within the city that I oversee as well, like the bathroom renovations here. I get dragged into the Beardsley Zoo project for the tiger exhibit, those kind of things. So I figure if we have 2 bodies, it would help to kind of spread out the work a little bit.
Your deputies that.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
come
ahead.
on. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, just to jump in, so this was the thing that I highlighted during my budget. So you'll see on page 229 that one of the project managers is mostly paid for because they're converting what used to be called the contract compliance person into this position, so it's just an increase. The other position is coming from my budget. It was a vacant position from last year that's going over to this budget. It's a one-for-one swap. I just wanna let you know that that's paid for, but that was that whole thing about creating a construction management team. So you don't have to add those are there already. Now, the office manager thing is a different issue, which we can get into, but with respect to the two project managers, those are in the proposed budget, ready to go.
Now, here's the problem I have with that. And I keep saying this, the contract compliance officer, we need that. And I'll tell you why we need that. Because we have nobody in economic development, nobody in this city.
Nope.
That monitors
Right.
these contracts. So we give them abatements and we say you gotta hire this, you gotta do that. But nobody in City Hall handles that. Now, something's wrong with that because we should have a contracts compliance person so that when this council approves something, they're monitoring to make sure they do it. We don't have nobody to make sure that these contractors are living up to what they do. So, if there's ever a position we do need, that's one of them. Unless you can have one of your deputies take on that role to monitor these projects, because we don't have nobody to monitor it. And if I'm wrong, council members, please correct me.
Want me to jump in?
Yeah.
So just so you guys know, and you know, I operated as a compliance officer for a few years for the city as well. My job was never to go and make sure that the contractors were doing everything that was outlined. That's not how that works. It's really just to oversee certified payroll, to ensure that they're being paid the correct wages. Compliance officer jumped into the MBE, you know, the ordinance that we have to make sure they were adhering to that. But it was very small pieces. Realistically, if you're gonna have compliance, you're supposed to have a division. To rely on one person to do over all these contracts, it's just not realistic though.
But not to have nobody,
But if it's just certified payroll, then the certified payroll can come to whoever's running the project. Cause I'll tell you, even with my own, as far as Bassett goes and all, if you go in my emails, I've got tons of certified payrolls from all the contractors. Same thing with the arena project that I oversee. So I mean, there are components that we could possibly just kind of throw on for other people to be responsible for, if that is the case.
Well, my other reaction, we just had our first kind of draft look at the disparity study. They have a little bit more work to do. Red and I sat in on a conversation. Council's gonna get a full briefing. Oh, you were there? No, it's not.
Nice.
But, I think this is gonna be a whole topic.
Yeah.
Because they proposing to really change the way we do things. And there's a lot of synergy between things you're all saying and what they're saying. So, I would punt on this conversation a little bit, because I hear what Michelle is saying, that the construction management issue that we have in the city is kind of separate and apart from what you're looking for, which I agree with. But I do think that outside of the certified payroll issue, which you should keep and do not keep the project, the stuff that you're looking for, in my view, probably should be more of the SMB office. And I think that we need to blow up what we do and start again from scratch. And I want you to hear that presentation and
Yeah.
ask questions and stuff, so maybe we can hold that issue. I don't know that this position swap is really what you're looking for.
So I only brought that up because you said y'all were going to swap contract compliance with something. And so I think that that's very important. So if you're working on it, we will wait and see.
I'm gonna go to Councilwoman Herron, and then Committee Member Ortiz,
Well,
and
I'm
Amy Marie,
I'm
and
glad
then.
Ernie brought that up, and I'm glad the disparity study is being done. I'm hoping it gets done pretty soon. It's not only payroll, and I know how it's been put in, but once we see that study, I think we're gonna have to redo the ordinance and look at some of the other municipalities and how they do this. And watching the union contracts, watching the employee contracts, watching the work that's being done on site as well. It's so much bigger than that, because there's so many violations and we've all been involved in that. So I think once that study's done, we're gonna start looking at the ordinance. And I pulled every ordinance from around the municipalities on this.
Okay,
Councilman Ortiz?
I'm not gonna deep in that one. Your office manager,
Could we just finish this, because I think, Tom, did you have anything else?
No, on that issue.
Okay, and Amy Reed, did you have anything on this?
Compliance, yes.
Okay, if you don't mind,
Well, I guess
Finish
we'll
that,
just
and then
keep it going that way. I guess that's what we're gonna go with.
we'll finish that and then we'll come back to your point.
This was
Yep.
brought up a while ago, not just for, in the public facilities line items, but the, city attorney did bring it up. That they were looking into getting someone to oversee the contracts and the compliance.
City attorney's office.
We used to have them years ago, and I'm not here to say, you know, that we did this before, but she wants to get it back into, session. I guess it's something she still needs to be looked into and discussed, with the other attorneys and the city administration.
If I may get to one recent point, we have a meeting tomorrow, a different element of compliance, Title VI compliance, which the city attorney's office has spearheaded, for lack of anybody else really spearheading it. And so we're gonna be tackling that, but you see, there's so many, when you say the word compliance, like compliance with what? So Title VI, city attorney, certified payroll, project management team, public facilities, S&BE compliance, and other types of things like hiring ex-felons, if that's in the contract. Could be S&BE, you know what I mean? So, different things, but that is being handled.
Okay, Councilman Newton's gonna have the last word on this, and then we'll go to Councilman
I bring
Ortiz.
this up because I read in the newspaper somewhere that we got companies working on projects, not paying prevailing wages. Now, if we had somebody that monitored, there wouldn't be no contractor doing work not meeting the prevailing wages. And I read it, maybe I read it in the newspaper, that it did happen in Bridgeport. So that's why I raise these questions. We need somebody hands-on. And I see a lot of hands,
That was a private project. There's no city project
okay?
that we don't monitor prevailing wage. We have a contract compliance officer,
Right.
but we don't have any projects going on right now that require prevailing wages. We are still recovering from COVID, and as we're on the upswing, and, you know, with shovels in the ground, we can now monitor it better as we did in times past. But that was a private project. And just, I don't wanna reopen the conversation, but the ordinance that you're referring to with the tax abatements, it gives no office in the city of Bridgeport the authority to challenge a developer for not adhering to the goal. It's just a goal. It's only a goal. And if they don't adhere to the goal, there's nothing that the city can do to impose some kind of punitive damage because they've not followed the goal.
Okay. So we need to look at that ordinance and put some teeth in it to hold these contractors accountable. Okay, thanks for coming.
Thanks for, Beverly?
Oh,
Rich? Yeah, okay, so we're good with this topic?
Okay,
Alright,
yeah, I just
so-
wanted,
Or you wanna add to the compliance question?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I wanna know, how long has it been since the city attorney office was looking into this situation? What did I say funny?
No, you say nothing funny.
That's
It's just-
good.
Oh, okay. I thought I was a comedian in this. How long has it been?
I don't know how long it's been through the chairs, I just know that, city attorney Taisha Thomas brought it up, at one of the meetings that we've had, and, she was looking into that. So again, that's something that Tom Gaudette can bring up to her also when they meet tomorrow on something else. Just to put that on the back burners to let them know.
You know how I
But then,
feel.
things don't just happen overnight, there's a big process, but it's longer with municipalities than in the real business world, so that's how it goes.
I know that, but they shouldn't have been looking into it last year, and we bringing it up today, that's what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Okay, thank you.
All right, good, all right, Rich?
All right, well, yeah. All right, we don't need that horse. But anyway, office manager. Now, you had a vacancy since last year. Now we come back up, it's still the same, correct?
Correct. Well, we didn't have, the position last year.
All right, we were there, we was none there, so. My question is where you're going with it this year?
So this year, I mean, if you guys can, through the chair, refer to the page 229, for the proposed budget, there was X amount of salary that was allocated to that position. After further conversation, you know, we were looking to change the title perhaps reduce that salary from where it stays right now. So, you know, in doing that, we will change the responsibilities, to kind of aid more towards the department needs. As you guys know, you know, public facilities handles 11 divisions under, and it is a necessity to have an office manager.
Frank, you want to speak to it?
Yeah, so I just want to provide some clarification of what's in the PowerPoint versus what's in the budget document. What's in the budget document is a proposal to take a special project coordinator and transition that into an office manager. What I believe Public Facilities is requesting is that rather than do that, I think the intent of what they're bringing to you in this presentation is to not transition that special project coordinator into an office manager, to keep it as a special project coordinator, but add an office manager. So that's, I just want to clarify what's in the budget versus what they're proposing. On the office manager, I believe there was an office manager in the FY '25 adopted budget. There was not? Okay. I do know just from some history that there was an office manager position. It was transitioned to the city attorney's office and left the public facilities budget. And so they are looking to essentially recapture that position to some degree. So that is their proposal, as I understand.
Good. One clarification, thank you.
You good, Rich?
Yes.
All right. Anybody else on that?
Yeah.
You skipped
Can I
right
clarify
past me.
this?
Go ahead. Sorry, Council.
Okay. So, office manager we definitely need. Last, I think, the office manager that ran a adequate, consistent, and proper, office management within the public facilities was Virginia, if I'm not mistaken.
Which
On point, with everything, so a office manager is definitely needed in that compartment. I'm gonna skip over to, I know Louis didn't, get to increasing roadway seasonals. We, the elected officials, are the ones that deal, it's here, Tom has.
Yeah, before we jump to that, Tom, did you want to speak to the office manager position?
Office manager, real quick.
Just to,
We talked about this today.
Put a bow on
We've
it.
been negotiating this for a while.
Yep.
As you may remember from last year, when there was some transition going on, we were solving a problem for public facilities with that position. Some grievances, things, and the transition of that was really good for the city attorney's office, and the employee is doing great. But we left a hole. Of course, plugging that hole has been a challenge. They have an employee right now that is on a very small, very small extra duties agreement to kind of cover some responsibilities. They are asking you, just to be specific about what the ask is, they're asking you to take this office manager position out, refund the, you wanna be right, Frank, what's the position, special project coordinator?
Yes.
Refund that position at the rate that that person would have made had none of this happened. And then Louis said he was asking for a an office manager. What we talked about this morning was a slight amendment to that, of asking for an admin, much like what we have in the rest of our departments. So, like in my department, finance, OPM, they each have admins that make significantly less than what the office manager, quote unquote, makes, but would serve the administrative functions of the department. It's still coming at a cost, right? The council would still have to add that money, but it's less than what it would have been if you had done a full office manager title. Have I captured that accurately, Fred and Louis?
Yes, you have.
Okay, so that's kind of a compromise position if the council's willing to entertain it.
okay. On this, you want to speak?
Yeah.
okay.
With that switch
Go ahead,
over
Daniel.
positions, is it a switch over a union, is it, what is the, that process there?
Typically, the admins are in LiUNA as opposed to in BCSA.
So if the person is in one union, they're willing to switch over to another? If they're in a union?
Under this scenario, it would not,
No switch?
It would be, sorry.
it would be a,
Well, yeah,
it'd be a-
Frank,
yeah,
why don't
right.
you- if you got it, go for it.
It would be a new person, right? Because the special project coordinator is paying, like Tom said, is being paid a little bit more to fulfill some of these duties, that agreement would go away, they would be paid, they're still in the same union. Now with the special duty stipend, or without, they're still in the same union. What they're proposing is a new position to act as an admin for the office that is significantly less than the office manager.
But they're saying it's the same person, so they're saying they're switching the person to that position.
No,
That's
no,
what you
they're
just
asking.
said.
No, the idea at one point was to potentially take a person who is doing it in acting capacity now essentially, and just have that person do that. The department's decided not to do
So
that.
that's the idea, can we just go by what is going to happen? I hate to do that because I'm getting one thing and then I'm saying another and then you're saying it's no, so
Yep.
we're gonna hire a new person and that person's not gonna do it at all.
So basically what'll happen is, you're gonna add an admin to the department, not a special project coordinator. You would add an admin, whatever or administrative assistant might be the appropriate title. And approximately, those usually pay in the 70s, thousands, Frank can get the number. And that would be the position you're adding to the budget. And that would be a totally new person. Of course, someone else within line would apply and all that kind of stuff, but it would be a totally new person. Would not obviously be the person who's acting in that capacity now because it makes significantly less than an individual makes.
Okay, that sounds better than what I was.
So I think what I'll ask of probably Frank, just give us, obviously, what's being asked for is a little different from what's in the book, correct? So if you can just give us a nice clear breakdown about what's filled, even if it's a acting role, and what's requested, then we can figure out what the dollars are and figure out what our thoughts are then. All right, Ernie, did you want to go?
Yeah, let me, just a question, on these positions. And you said somebody's already in line, or they got somebody in mind already for this position? How are the positions here?
No. So there's somebody currently, and Louis could speak to this, there's currently someone in his department
Right.
that is there, that they threw some extra responsibilities at, that is doing it now. There is nobody for this, if the council finds it fit to fund this new position,
Right.
there is nobody in mind. It has to be posted within the union for 5 days first, before it could be filled by anyone from anywhere else.
I just want to make sure that it's a fair process, that we're setting up a job for somebody. I'll leave that alone.
Fair process, you
I'll
go.
leave that alone.
Okay. Lynn, go ahead.
Okay, so, going back to where I left off at. Increase in roadway seasonals. I have to tell you that we, as the elected body, better stand very hard on this. As the saying is out here now, we better keep our boots on the ground. Because if we cut any seasonal positions that have been allocated throughout the years here in the city, this city is gonna look worse than what it's looking right now. And I have to say that the Public Facilities Department is just as critical as our Health Department. A lot of revenue comes in through that department. These individuals are working very hard to fulfill a lot of stuff and even build revenue for this department. I mean, one thing Aaron is working on, and I wasn't aware of it, is placing some fees at the transfer station, which is gonna be great for the city of Bridgeport. And once that ever leaves out of the city attorney's office and we implement that, that's gonna be a few dollars that are gonna come in, which will be helpful to the budget. But critically, right now, we have to maintain our roadway seasonals, we have to maintain all seasonals that we have in the city of Bridgeport, because they are the ones that are making things happen here. I've been doing a lot of research into public facilities. They have a limited hand of individuals who are CDL licensed, who are unfortunately not able to drive the machinery and the big trucks that the city of Bridgeport has, which puts us at a disadvantage to other cities. So my recommendation to each and every council colleague that votes on this budget is to consider keeping the numbers as they've been, with no decreases to the seasonals, because they are very critical to the city of Bridgeport, in a lot of areas. I mean, we're talking about a lot of areas. We're not just talking about cutting the grass and cleaning up garbage. They are very critical in a lot of areas, so I just wanted to touch on that because I see, our public facilities director has it on here, but I keep seeing that seasonals is being cut in the budget. For whatever reason, we cannot cut the seasonal. Thank you.
Frank, go ahead.
I just wanna, just provide some clarification to that. I think what's being requested in the PowerPoint is additional seasonals. I did not cut any of the seasonal, budgets, except for a $10,000 increase that we spoke about yesterday, and a $200,000 increase in the golf course for seasonal labor. Those were the two increases that I can think of for seasonal labor. Otherwise, the seasonal line has stayed the same. What I would, a caveat to that would be that if it is decided, maybe something that we could look at is the $200,000 increase to the golf course for seasonals. Maybe we could spread a little bit of that to roadways as an option. That's something that we could take a look at, but no seasonal budget was cut.
Okay. Going this order, Councilman Panicia, Councilman Newton, Councilman Ortiz.
Thank you. Just as, renewal thing, that this book was done in February. So any paperwork and exhibits that we get are a little bit new, so it's probably given a time for revision of what their needs and wants and don't needs, are done. So that's why there's a little bit of a difference on here. So, I kudos to the departments that do give us the updated ones and then are broad with their, requests. And it's pretty much on point, I think. So I thank you.
All set?
Yeah, let me speak, I want to speak on the seasonal aspect of it. And this may be something that the city really needs to look at. Now, you think about this. They can only work, I think, 4 months.
4 months.
And they gotta wait and go all the way around the cycle before they get back. And I've been asking this, to me, it makes more sense to hire folk, and I know you're gonna talk about, well, they get benefits. Listen, if we're gonna, I think it's time to do it right. Okay, you got, I don't know how many seasonals, I'll make up a number 20, I'll just use 20, 30. It makes more sense to make them full-time employees for our city. Because then you got the manpower around the clock. You ain't got to train them, they're there, they've been doing it. They got the CDLs, then the way we're doing it. Because it just doesn't make sense to me that we'll hire all these seasonals, really part-time seasonals, because after 4 months, they're unemployed. They can't collect no benefits. They gotta wait for another cycle before they get on. It just makes more sense to me. But you'd be better off hiring 20 people or 25 people in public works that work around the clock than what we're doing now with the seasonal stuff. It really does, because it gives them an opportunity to have a full-time job. You know what you got. You ain't got to worry. Keep coming here asking, well, we need more seasonals.
Got it.
Okay? So let's think about it.
Rich?
Okay. How many seasonals y'all plan to take on? It doesn't seem that much.
Right now, I mean, if, through the chair, I mean, if we were to stay within what we've been asked, as Paul mentioned, yesterday, that would be at 1/3 of, it would be completely, eliminated. So right now, it is challenging to even, maintain services with the seasonals that we actually have, in which, in the past decade, that budget has been exceeded.
I'm in favor to give you more seasonals because the amount of complaints I get, and Aaron will testify, much as yourself can testify from Seattle, how much I do send y'all pictures and stuff that doesn't get done, right? And I do appreciate y'all getting it done. But what y'all gotta maintain is you don't have enough. And I know that y'all don't have enough. right? It is a shame that we gotta fight this in a budget meeting over and over again for something y'all should have been given a while ago. Even for my own colleagues that have been here long enough, should stop doing that, because they've been doing it for a while, not giving exactly what the city needs. And it's a shame that you have to sit there in your own chairs and you constantly go through this every year. I'm talking about my own colleagues, it's a shame. I have no problem giving what y'all need. Because y'all know the work y'all do. I know y'all get the complaint from me easily. So, I'll get back to the chair.
New?
Yes, I just wanna ask a question, if it's allowable to ask. When you say, to our director here, when you say being asked, who are you referring to you're being asked? Because you're the director of this department. You, your deputy, and your CAO should be the ones that should be laying out the carpet to what your department needs. No one should be coming into your department telling you how you need and what you don't need and how to fund your department. So when you keep saying being asked, who are you referring to?
Well, through the chair, I mean, just basically, you know, due to the budget constraints that we're facing right now, we were asked to, you know, try to stay within the budget. And I think, you know, we were trying to do so, you know, in good faith. That's why we're not asking as many precision requests that we would ideally would like to. But that's basically just trying to stay within the budget.
But it's fair to say that these position requests that you all are asking are actually needed to run an
Absolutely.
operation here in the city of Bridgeport.
That's-
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Paul Patino?
If I could help here, just think really to try to knit together both what the councilperson and the OPM director were saying, because nobody's really wrong so far, but the point isn't really being as sharpened as it could be. And the reality is, what's been budgeted and what's being spent, just like we talked about last night in parks, are two very different things. And so the OPM director, okay, fair enough, is saying you've got to live within your budget. Well, if you look right there on your own, on the page 255, you can see what got spent for the past 2 years. 2 years ago in FY23, it was 681. Give you half a second. Last year was spent 949. Both of those years were against an approximate $250,000 budget. 2 years ago, in fairness, was 270. But the point is, if we are really going to pull back our operations down to within the budgeted level and really live within it, what you all will experience is a drastic change in services. Because you cannot go from spending $949 back to $250 and no one will notice anything. And so we are asking for a more realistic number if we're really gonna live within it. If you go back, now both of those years were particularly high because of bulk, but even if we went back to before bulk, I have some draft notes of my own here, I'm sorry, you don't have these. But if you go back to FY22, just an example, the budget was 250, we spent 450 approximately. That's 200 over, which is a lot better than last year at 700 over. So even if we were to go back to what had been a relatively normal year, it's still 200 realistically higher. Now wages also have gone up over this time as well, while our budgeted numbers have not. And so that combination of trying to do more to provide the services that y'all and the mayor are looking for us to do, combined with these higher wages, are putting us between a rock and a hard place. The budget director's within his rights to say live within your budget. But at the same time, we're saying if we do that, the service levels that y'all are used to are gonna get wiped. And that's what we're trying to draw your attention to. And we don't pretend that you can magically give us everything. But there has to be something, or you choose a much lower level of service. Did that help?
Frank and then Reverend Lee.
I just wanna just respond to one question and then maybe a general comment, but, you know, in asking right, you asked the Public Facilities Department, what did people ask you? And I just wanna be very forthcoming and say that as part of this budget process, I asked them to come to me with what they entered into Munis and go over their budgets with them. And we did have that meeting about what they proposed in their budget, and I hope to have very many more meetings where we go over what's budgeted and what they need. As far as the budget, right, Paul is saying that, you know, although there may have been dollars budgeted, they had spent over, and there may have been flexibility in those years, either by vacancy savings or maybe savings in other areas that allowed them to do that. Ultimately, the budget before you it's a budget with a plan, right? And we tried our best to stick to the plan. We need to have a plan, but throughout the year, things happen and there is some flexibility. So, you know, in prior years, we've somehow made it work. But this year, I'm trying to project into a future, things that we all know about. Decreases in grant funding going away, decreases in grant funding due to changes in the federal government, ARPA going away, that's currently $12 million in our budget, and overall increasing expenses. And so, you know, if we want to keep taxes flat, these are the type of decisions that we make, and it doesn't mean that after we pass this budget, perfect example, like you said, this budget was printed in February, we were already looking at different proposals. So it doesn't mean that when we pass this budget, it becomes set in stone. But this is the plan we have for now, and I think this is the plan, a decent plan based on what we know. And if things change, right, then the plan may change. So that would just be my response to that.
Okay. Reverend Lee?
Yeah, getting back to the seasonal workers, I somewhat agree with Ernie. There are some people that is on doing seasonal work, and you know, we talking about 4 months. By the time, you know, they're caught up with their bills and the child support and all that stuff, they're out of job again. How about if the ones that really care, 'cause you have some that not doing anything with the seasonal work. How about if the one that's dedicated and whatever else for seasonal work, if they do a great job, you know, during those 4 months, why can't they be hired, you know, full time for the city? You know, if it was the only kind of work that I would do, that I could do, I would be real nervous, because by the time I pay my get caught up on my light bills and my child support and spousal support and all that carry on stuff, I don't have a job anymore, you know? And some of the ones, I see them work out there, they work hard. There should be some way, and I think that in one of our meetings, I'm not sure whether you was on then or not, but in one of our meetings said that some of the seasonal workers are hired full-time at some point. You know, I would like to know the percentage that are being hired, you know. And I know, and I'm gonna do one of my mama things, some of them not worth a dime, but however, you know, there are some that worth a quarter. So, why don't we think about that? Because, you know, it's hard for someone that have a family, and then they work, you know, 4 months and get comfortable, and wow, nothing. Do that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. And you know, and that's my thought. And I know that, you know, and I know that the city might be losing money and all that stuff, but I think that it's time for the city to start losing money for their taxpayer and their citizen that lives here, you know. We can't focus all on what the city's gonna do, you know, it's gonna cost the city this, well, you know, it's gonna cost us this. Cause we're the one that the taxpayer, we the one that pay the light bill, we the one that do all this other stuff. So it's time to start talking about the citizen of the city of Bridgeport. That's just a thought. You know, you the boss, so yeah. I knew you were gonna say something. I knew that's my friend right there, yeah.
Encouraged.
Okay.
Chair, so just so you know, I think within this past year, we had a turnover of probably like 10 seasonals who became permanent. So we did, follow what we proposed to you guys in prior years of taking seasonals and turning them to permanent employees. So with, people who resigned or retired or even just failed to come back to work, we're replaced with hardworking seasonals that show, strong work ethic and come to work every day. So they were offered permanent positions instead of looking to the outside.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was roughly like a little bit more than 8 to 10 people that were brought on this year.
Good job, thank you. Good job, good job.
Alright,
Good
Councilman
job.
Lee?
Yeah, Tom, I didn't hear nobody talk about the low SIP money that we get from the state. And why doesn't that play a part of maybe them be able to hire more seasonal people from the dollars that we get from the state?
LoSiP is actually for, cap, so LoSiP money is typically credited to, street paving account.
Yeah.
Which is usually, I think almost always the way it's spent, if I'm not mistaken, Kathleen can correct me historically if it's ever been used for another purpose, but it's typically where it's used. And I'll just say, to everyone's point, and Reverend Lee's point, we have a former seasonal in the room who's now the public facilities director. So that just shows how much you can rise.
Where is he?
You're right.
Louis was a seasonal.
Louis was a
How long did it take you, Louis?
Good
It
job.
only took him
50
most of his
years.
lifetime, but he broke it.
See what hard work get you?
You made it.
No, you don't have to worry about your bills anymore.
So was the
Yeah,
last
one
one.
more thing and then I'm
Lou,
done.
just-
Yes,
One
that's
thing
right,
and then
yeah.
I'm done.
I know you're asking for more seasonals. How many more seasonals are you asking for? I know you're asking for.
I mean, I think we were looking to an increase of, I think the budget was like 50, so I think we're looking at another 50.
At least another 50,000. See, when you count seasonals, it's really hard, because as you correctly pointed out, they only work for 4 months.
Yep.
So the total number that you have over the course of the year versus the total number you have at a given time can be a tricky little count to make. But basically, what we're talking about is, when we just delivered $950,000 worth of service, and now we're gonna go down to $250,000, that basically puts you at roughly a quarter of the work that you're used to enjoying. And so we're looking to get that up, whatever number we can get back up. We thank you all for the $50,000 that's already in here to go up. We appreciate that consideration, but we're helping to point out that 50 only will take you a very small way. We're also realistic that jumping all the way to another 600 is not likely to be possible, but can we get there, closer up to 200 total? That, I know Frank is cringing as I say these words. Nonetheless, it's the choice between the spend and the services. And if you spend less, you get less service. And if you're okay with that, fine.
Well, let me say this, and the CAO is sitting here. One thing I will say about Joe Gaddon, he hates a dirty city. Now, if anybody's ever followed him around, and he's seen some junk and stuff on these streets, he goes berserk. So if there is a way that we can, because guess what? We owe it to the taxpayers. Okay, we really owe it to the taxpayers. I'm just hoping that, and I know Public Works has done a good job with the seasonals and all the people that they have, but we do need to bring that number up a little bit. We really do, because the mayor is definitely about a clean city. So, I don't want him to get upset and veto our budget, because we didn't do it.
And I'm glad you said that, you don't want him to get mad and veto our budget. Right now, the book that's in front of us is his budget. This is not our budget. And, I've heard a couple of times this week, the council this, the council that, this is not our budget. This is something we're working on to correct, if we feel that it's needed to be corrected. As Anita said, this is where we're at to make these corrections and make these changes. So jot down in your books, those who actually show up, and when we have to do the grunt work, we're gonna have to make some hard level decisions, because I'm not gonna get blamed for the mayor's budget. And it's just not gonna happen. If he likes a clean city, he should have added more money. Thank you.
You got it. All right, so I'm gonna say one more thing on this in a moment, but just to kind of direct us and keep us moving. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 divisions theoretically that we're gonna try to hit on tonight. So let's march through them. I think we're doing a pretty good job of talking about numbers and priorities, so let's just keep on that. The one piece about the seasonals, we have had this discussion before. You know, there's a couple years ago, we had a little bit of a deal of exchanging some seasonal money for some full-time, but as we probably recall, that budget wasn't enacted, and that went by the wayside. And so, you know, we wanna make sure the city's taken care of, the bulk pickup. We did that 2 years in a row. It was expensive. We knew there were costs. And Mr. Catino, thank you for the data point on the seasonals and roadway. So 3 years ago it was at 450, last year over 900, that's a doubling, okay? So if we're getting back down to something, you know, normal expected, then, you know, that's something to bear in mind on the whole. And again, we'll look at, you know, reality versus the rest, and, you know, you also hear from us that we want decent management as well. So, there's two sides to it, okay? Reverendly?
I'm about to fall out my chair.
Uh-oh. Please don't.
Is the mayor's budget, he put the money in there?
This is his proposal,
That's
correct?
his proposal.
Correct.
But if we go along with what he said and don't correct what we think is right, then we are agreeing with what he say. So, you know, it's just not on the mayor, but it's on us too. You know what I mean? So you just can't say if the mayor budget, he should have given us more if he want, no, that's not true. If we want changes, we have to change what he wrote in his budget. I'm sitting in my chair now, so you can go on, okay?
I'm gonna breathe better knowing that. Good, good. Heidi, good.
I just to follow up what Councilwoman Lee is saying, and maybe it was said and maybe it wasn't, and you just said the number of 950, but and you did also say that we did the bulk pickup 2 years in a row. Excuse me, I compare that 950 number from that 450 number to the fact that we did do bulk pickup 2 years in a row, and that has brought up our seasonal number. So if we decide we're not doing bulk pickup, then the number will go back down again. So it's not something that we live with. We ourselves, in that decision of funding bulk pickup, and remember that our former OPM director and our two public facilities director ago did not want to do hiring of full-time staffers to bulk up. It was, we are relying on seasonals because it's cheaper for the fringe and the MERS. So we're living with what we've created to save on the MERS and the fringe. That's what Natural always told us, right? So if that's the case, then we need to really look at how many people aggregate out, how many workers, and I know they can't do this right now. It would be to decide in the long term when we go to debate this, how much did we really spend on bulk pickup seasonals versus year-round seasonals? That's the number we need to add, because that's the true budget number, not the 950. And we need to keep that in the forefront when we have this discussion.
Okay.
Point well taken.
I handed out a piece which, Councilman Herring, if you want to take the lead on this, from.
The documents parking enforcement data FY 2025 at 04242025B.
Is there a second?
Second, Amy Ray.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, so this is a little bit of data from Mr. Pizarro, who's in charge of this division for parking enforcement. It's not the full year, but on the third page, that shows meter collection, basically this calendar year, so January going forward. And then on the whole, citation revenue of, on the first page is 530,000. and the intermediary page is the number of citations by violation. Okay, so again, last year, we talked about increasing the fines to increase the number, which would also include the penalty. And we also talked about, which we're not gonna touch on tonight, but, you know, police doing more to ticket tractor trailers overnight, because that's quality of life issue as much as anything. So, we did get from Mr. Pizarro, when we were talking about raising the fee, a little more of a breakdown. I'm gonna go back to him, try to get, you know, what we really are getting from the meters, fines, penalties, et cetera. So we do have something here. Go ahead.
Seeing that we can't get the police department to, ticket these tractor trailers, you might as well let the parking meter people that do this downtown, they don't work nights. I thought they were working weekends in my district. So, don't tell me they don't work nights, but these parking vehicles aren't only at night. They're parked all over everywhere. And so we can't get the police to do it. Just like we let the meter people go in our districts and tag cars that are parking on arms, and maybe we should let them do it. We might get a better bang for our dollar than waiting for the police to do it, because they're not doing it. So, we need to make that suggestion to the
Yeah. So I'm just bringing this up because, again, we've talked about it. It's a fairly big number. Last year, we were looking for 1.9. Mr. Magneri is proposing 1.5. Oh, I'm sorry, we're on 228.
Okay.
Sorry. 228. I also, Mr. Pizarro sent me something late in the afternoon. I didn't include it here because this was already done. But he said he's sent to collection service another $500,000. So I'm not sure if it's exactly what's uncollected or not, but you know, we'll try to get that to get a sense of what's, again, kind of a realistic number in terms of violations and the details there. So, you know, again, that's a number we can play around with maybe a little bit. And I'm looking at the revenue side, see what we can come up with exactly.
All right.
Okay?
I wish you could have been here to answer the questions.
Yeah, maybe we can circle back. I mean, I guess the only thing I kind of offer, I mean, through basically 3 months here, the data is 85,000. Times 4, you're looking at 340, right, or so? Which is below the 525 we were looking for last year. So I think we need to be perhaps realistic. Okay, all right. Anything else from anybody on 228 or 229 in terms of revenue or positions? Yeah,
I just wanna help you
Sure.
understand, because I'm seeing Danny Pizarro's sheet here, and you just mentioned 85,000 so far. In fact, as of the 23rd, when I ran my report, there's been $235,000 collected in parking meters so far.
Okay, yeah, so this is January through March, what he gave us.
85 though is not 235.
Did I say 235?
I am.
For the whole year?
From July till
Yeah, okay,
Tuesday.
that's good, thank you.
235 instead of 85.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I just shared what I had.
Okay.
So 235 is what you have for the whole year, okay. Great. All right, thank you. All right, and if nothing else on public facilities admin, let's go to garage. Frank, do you want to just read through what you got on the books and then, sorry, 234? There's no revenue there, so.
No revenue here, no changes to any of the positions. And then the budget, the operational expenses are at the same level. So there's really, there's not much else here as far as changes.
Okay. Any, anything on that, Louis? You wanna? Good?
No, there's nothing to add.
Okay. This is where you have a couple vacancies though?
That is correct.
Correct. Okay. And they're advertised, or where are we on that?
Through the chair?
Yep.
Yeah, so currently we're advertising, we're doing interviews weekly, just trying to get I guess technicians to meet the qualifications for the heavy-duty equipment that we utilize on a day-to-day is a struggle. You have it where they're either inexperienced and lack the knowledge, or they just are not entertained by the amount we offer, or at the same time, they don't get comfortable with starting at 4 a.m. to reflect our sanitation, or even working on garbage trucks. So there's a lot of things that are distasteful for the people that we have been interviewing in the last few months, I would say. And at the same time, the reason for the loss of our employees have been for better opportunities. So we find it where I lost 2 people to other towns, I lost 2 other people to utility companies, and then I had where we promoted one of the guys internally to try to see if he could fit the needs as a manager. But it's a big struggle at this time.
Thank you for that perspective.
Now, I'm quite,
Yeah, Eddie, go ahead.
so, on the fleet mechanics, I don't know, I know that you probably don't know this off the top of your head, are all the fleet mechanics coming in at step 1? Is there a possibility that we can start some of these fleet mechanics, offering them step 2 or step 3, so it's more competitive?
Through the chair? So yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
so the way that it's set up is that if they come with a certain level of qualification and certifications, then they skip all the way to the top. And at the same time, due that we are in distress per se, that all our current mechanics are at top step, so we can bring them in at a higher range. So what we do is when we advertise, we put it at a range, not at a set step. So we have room for negotiation per se.
So, if all your mechanics are at the top step, is it safe to say we should be talking to civil service maybe to review it, to make us more competitive? And to maintain people, so we can have more trucks out there on the road?
Through the chair?
Yep.
So currently, we have it where 1303 contract has been at the first step of negotiations with labor, and they're looking to do the underwriting so it can come to contract committee. So with that said, that what's gonna be presented will make us competitive. So it's gonna increase and make it where it's attractive to other audience, other people in other towns. Some of the challenges that we are facing is that the deductions that people see with having to pay the medical compared to other towns, and certain things that other towns offer that are attractive, such as double time on holidays, double times on weekends, is things that we just don't have in place at this time. But you will be seeing that contract come into contracts committees probably within, I think, next month, if I'm not mistaken.
So right now, the 4 that you have are capped at the max.
So currently I have, yes, they're at the max, and I do have, from the 4, I have, actually I only have 3, because one of them is on workers' comp.
You're at 3 with 1 applicant.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Just a couple of questions, probably more for Paul, but maybe not. We always ask about diesel and gas. And then the other piece in terms of, I'm looking at automotive parts. I'm on 239, sorry. Any sense of, what's happening in DC? Have you seen any concerns in terms of price ratcheting or anything like that yet, or is that all TBD?
If I may,
Yeah.
what I would say, Aaron can certainly chime in, he's closer to the garage and the parts, but basically I think the experience of the city so far is much like this, the experience that all of you are having, and that is the full effect of those tariffs have yet to fully hit. What we can say for sure is that back during the last round of inflation, parts went up significantly. And outside services, okay, with all these outside vendor lines, didn't go up for us. So there were a lot of increases out there in the population for other people getting raises. So when we bring vehicles that have to get done, maybe they're proprietary, maybe there's something that's just outside of our skill set to do, but we must bring our vehicles to outside vendors, that dollar that we had just a few years ago isn't going anywhere near as far as it used to. And our budget hasn't gone up. Now we did have requests for more. It wasn't my intent to come here and really beat that drum hard, because we are trying to be good team players with the administration. We understand that there is a real problem and a gap to fill. We accept those things. Nonetheless, you asked, and the fact is, both parts are going up significantly, not just from the tariffs, but from previous things that have already occurred, and the price of that outside labor has gone up, and our budget hasn't budged. And so if you're really asking, are we heading towards trouble? Yep, we sure are.
Great. Thank you. All right, anything else on garage from anybody?
What is the towing services? On page 239, I see towing services.
Through the chair?
Yep.
Good.
So, we have a lot of breakdowns with a lot of equipment. So our equipment is where we have a mixed fleet of new stuff, old stuff. So there's breakdowns that happen on a regular basis with new stuff and old stuff. Now, with the trucks that we have in place are heavy duty. So what we do is we have to request heavy duty tow truck to bring them back to the yard, bring them to the dealer, and things of that nature. At the capacity that we're at with the garage, limited staffing, that a lot of stuff has to be outsourced. So when we send it to dealers and things of that nature, we have to utilize a tow truck if it's not safe for our drivers to take it over the road, because we got to meet DOT requirements. So if there's any problems or issues with it, then we just reach out to tow trucks to get it to where it needs to be.
Just a follow-up, so most of our stuff, because we don't have mechanics and we don't have whatever it is we need, a lot of the work that on these vehicles, we have to send it out in order for them to come up to par and meet our standards.
So yes, sir. So to tell you the truth, last year we did a study. Actually, it was 2 years ago. We did comparables to other towns. So the fleet and the size of equipment that we maintain on a daily basis, our operation should be running a minimum of 12 mechanics, and we're currently operating with 6. So if you even compared to Waterbury, Hartford, and everybody like that, like I said, from the CCM study, which was the actual study that was put in place, they recommend us to have a minimum of 12 to 15, and we're currently operating with budget 6. So yes, we have to utilize outside resources to fill that void.
So you haven't tried to hire new mechanics? You
So
tried to come before the body and ask for new mechanics?
every year I come before the board asking for 4, 5, and it's always reduced. There was a time that I only had 4 mechanics, which you guys gracefully gave me 2. I requested 4, but it's just one of those things. I have an employee right now that has been filling in because we're so short-staffed. That is such a great asset to our operation. He's capable of doing part-time, and we would love to have a permanent part-time position for him. That the gentleman actually works what we get in the hours that he works is equivalent to an 8-hour day, if not more. So I would, if anything, I would definitely appreciate if I can get that part-time position for that mechanic. If you guys want to give me more to fit, the only thing that I have to just be careful with is the size of the operation that we're working within might not be able to handle anything above of what we have budgeted for at this time. So that's the only thing I gotta be mindful of.
Yeah, very much. Go ahead.
Do it cost the city when we outsource like that? The city lose, I know the reason that we do it is because we don't have enough mechanics to do the work. So when we outsource, that costs the city more money if we had someone to, own staff to do our own, right?
Yes, so at this time, for heavy duty, like hourly rate, you're talking about like more than 150, if not more an hour. And if it's one of those things that we have them come out to us, then we have to spend for fuel costs and everything like that, that an hourly rate can be at a $300 per hour rate. So it's a big cost, and it does hurt our operation, but we tried, OPM does a great job of, trying to give us enough to cover that, so.
So is it hard to find, mechanics? It's hard to find,
Correct,
right?
correct. So it is a competitive market. So currently, like I said, we've been interviewing. I have like 5 interviews on Monday, and we try our best to get the right person to fit the operation.
Oh, okay. So we need to know whether or not we are able to find someone to be a mechanic for the city of Bridgeport. And then we have to decide whether or not we're gonna give them the money in order to hire someone, especially the part-time one that you're asking for. Because we do, well, sometime I wanna save the city money. One time I do. Okay.
We appreciate anything you give us.
All right, very good. We'll go on to facilities maintenance, which is page 242. And again, Frank, if you want to just introduce a little bit, and then we'll turn it over to the department, and then take any questions.
So no revenue here either. One notable change that it was just collective bargaining change is that the service assistant was reclassified to custodian 1. So there are no more service assistants, it's just custodians. So that's what you would see on the personnel side. No vacancies in here. Moving down to operational, I did reduce, there's a line on page 247. It's about 3/4 of the way down. It's going from 400,000 to 150,000. It says Board of Ed Building Maintenance Supplies Service. That historically had been 150,000. Last year was raised to 400,000, I believe, to pay for a facility study. So we dropped it back down at this time to the 150,000. And then I did make a change to vehicles in this department, budgeting going from the 505 to 130,000. So that would be the next big decrease. Other than that, I don't have any.
Okay. Mr. Burgos or one of your deputies want to speak to any of the line items here?
So you want to speak on?
Through the chair, Joe Teo. We would like to increase our custodian budget by 2 or 3 additional custodians. Every day we're, the overtime budget is through the roof because we're constantly filling custodian positions that are out sick, on vacation. So additional 2 to 3 custodians is a minor request to fulfill the needs of the PD, the annex here, the government, the Bethany Center, all the senior centers. Yeah, so that would be my request to 2 to 3 additional custodians. And then I don't know if we want to consider eliminating the janitor's position and bumping them up to custodians and just having custodians across the board. I don't know really what the janitor's title is, what purpose it serves any longer.
Okay. You want to speak to that? Go ahead.
What is the difference between janitress and custodian? Why are you suggesting that, and what's the difference?
The custodians are, get a higher salary, not by much, they're paid more, and they could move up in positions and steps to custodian 3, supervisor, which we haven't tested yet, but civil service is preparing testing for custodian 3 and custodian 4, which we could use at night, like for tonight, for example, we have no supervision. We have custodians in the buildings, but we don't have any supervision because we haven't tested them, haven't provided the test yet to get a custodian to a step 3 or a step 4. So my manager, Jed, is basically on call 24/7. There's an issue right now, they're calling Jed in the middle, at night. Their shift is here till midnight. So it'd be nice to have a custodian 3 or custodian 4 at night to go around and supervise and provide any service or any needs. If someone gets ill or needs an emergency or something, provide them assistance, some supervisory assistance. We have somebody on second shift.
But again, so the janitress you're referring to, they're females?
No, it's just a title. It's male. We have male janitors. It's just, I don't know where that title came from.
Yes, okay. Councilwoman Harris, you want to speak to that?
Maria, the janitorist is under, AFSCME. The custodians are under NAGE, and janitors do a little bit less of the job details as a custodian, because we have them in the schools as well.
Yeah,
That's the only difference.
If it's a difference of a title, okay, I mean, I'm with you with the fact that if custodians are needed, definitely, I know the need, because I where I work, sometimes our maintenance person is absent, and the one that cleans up after, whatever it may be, because there's nobody to come to our center, we have our van driver, our receptionist, and sometimes our members, the men, the one that can handle the heavy lift, help maintain our place clean. So I do understand about, needing someone, but again, I don't, if a janitress is hired because they can do the job, that's why they were hired, then I believe that janitress should do a little bit more, or take on the responsibility. That's what they're working for.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. Just a quick question I had. There's one line here for contracted salaries. It's not a big number, but I'm just curious about it. I'm sorry, 247.
I can try to field, through the chair.
Sure.
I can try to field the question, but help me understand exactly what the question is. You're curious about it?
Yeah, there's a line for contracted salaries on page 247. I don't know what it's for.
Several years ago, there was a personnel situation where an individual, that money always had been in the part-time line, part-time seasonals line, which was originally put there so that we could bring in Bullard Haven's kids as part-timers and try to be laborers along with some of our trades guys. Not apprentices, can't say that word, but to at least work alongside some of the trades guys and start to learn. That's where the money came from originally. Then, a few years ago, the OPM director at the time, to accommodate a request to slide someone into a situation, transferred some of that money from the part-time line over to that contracted salary line. It could very easily, and frankly, would be nice to have it go back to where it was and resume. But I think I've said enough on that.
Fair enough. So I'll simplify. I'll just say what I can say. So the thought is to move the contracted line perhaps to the seasonal line.
That would be fine by me. Yes,
Okay.
us.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Council.
I believe that you might have already covered the seasonal.
We have definitely talked about seasonals.
Right, so I would like to ask permission if I can
Throw in your 2 cents.
throw my 2 cents.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'll take a nickel.
Hey, I need more. I need more. So, in terms of the seasonal, again, I was not here. I'm coming from another meeting that I needed to be at. But I'm hoping that the department has asked for an increase on seasonals. They do play an important role in our community, right, in our respective community. I just, and I don't, I'm sharing this information, this picture with you guys. Again, oops, oh, you got it? Okay, so, again, that what you see is, again, sometimes our seasonals are used or hired, right, to help out in certain aspects in the community. That's a location that yesterday was cleaned up because of, it had been blighted. And you see something heavy there, on the right side, you see a picture, that's a man that was laying in that location yesterday. He was taken to the hospital. So, again, I feel that these seasonals do the job that perhaps you and I will not do, right? So they're giving these positions, and they do the unbelievable. I have to excuse my what I'm about to say, but if I am in my neighborhood, whatever, and I stepped on dog poop, right? I will throw up. I will throw my sneakers away. But these people that are seasonal, they do the unthinkable. Not only, again, that the department needs individuals to cover certain aspects, right, of what's being done in the community, but also, when we spoke yesterday about money, these individuals should be given a raise. Because let me tell you, I have received calls from somebody working one of the parks, and there was a mess in the bathroom. I don't know how the heck she did it, because I know I would have walked away. So when you consider, when you're summarizing all this, please think of those individuals that are not making enough money, and they do a job that I will not even do. So again, this is, I'm telling you, yesterday was a very hard day on the east side. And these are pictures that I took, not only, that's the man on the ground. So again, and this is the garbage that was in that location. Thank you.
Okay. Point taken. Thank you. All right. So we'll come back to facilities maintenance. Any other questions from committee? Okay. I'm gonna ask one more question, which is on the vehicles purchase line. I know it's cut quite a bit for this year. I also know we've bought a fair number of vehicles with ARPA money and whatnot. Can you share what vehicles you would like to purchase and the thought behind that? Eric?
Mr. Chair, are you talking about personal preference, like if I want a Lamborghini or something?
Yeah, no.
So one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that as you go through these budget meetings and people ask for positions, you just gotta make sure you think about what their day-to-day operation is. So you're gonna have it where the health director might come in and say she needs 6 more inspectors, but for them to inspect, they're gonna have to get around. So these are the things that you also have to keep in mind for, as you guys move forward with budget, that it comes with maybe a cost for salary, but it might come with a cost for daily operation. So for the fleet right now, one of the things that we're gonna be looking to purchase is the vet bus is getting to, with mileage and the cost of repairs and it coming in more frequently than usual, we're gonna probably need to put in for a vet bus. Then we have it where, the mail room, their vehicle is coming to the end of its useful life as well, so that's gonna be needed as well. Plus, we have it where like, just regular small day-to-day operation vehicles. I don't know what the plan is for parking enforcement. I know their vehicles are coming to the end of its useful life as well. They're constantly at the garage, so, having vehicles for them to, I guess, broaden their violations is another thing that we can keep in mind. Currently, the harbor master has a truck that he puts in and out of the water, and that vehicle is a 20-year-old vehicle, so that vehicle is getting to the end of its useful life as well. So there's a handful of vehicles that public facilities will need. Frank has been graceful when it comes to capital, and I know we do have to prioritize, but it does come with, like I said, everything's gonna come with a cost.
Would you be able to get us the updated list of vehicles?
Yeah,
Okay,
I can get you that.
that'd be great.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
To clarify that, I'd like to see non-police vehicles, non-police
Yeah.
department vehicles.
Sorry, yeah.
If you can just break them down.
Yep.
If you can give them to us, can you give them to us by year, like what year the car is?
Yeah, so I think I have it formatted already by department, by year, and things of that nature.
And the purpose, yeah, because I think that matters when we're talking about end of life vehicles, and I know that, we were just at one meeting talking about, we need zoning officials, we need inspectors, and you're absolutely right, because people share cars. But, if there's a way to get this done in another fashion, and find some different kind of money that we can reprogram, then that's something we'll think about, but we need to know what, before we make that decision, who has what, for what purposes, because, I will say I see a little white car all the time parked inconspicuously somewhere all day long, running, sometimes doing nothing. When I drive around the block up and down for 2 hours.
Okay,
I
we'll
just
get
need
your
to
list.
know the department. I don't need a plate number, but.
Alright, nothing else, let's go to roadway, which is on 250. Again, Frank, if you got anything for us, and I'll just preface it by saying there are seasonals listed here. So, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but, keep that in mind. Alright, Frank, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so, not any changes to staffing here, no vacancies listed currently. And then we did talk about the seasonals already, and I don't think we need to continue to go over that. So there's really not much change to the operational expenses. Equipment, I did reduce 25,000. That's the only change that I have.
Okay. Alright, again, I'll turn it back to the department if you guys have any comments or thoughts. Did look at this a little bit earlier, but, that's okay. No?
I just bring this
Okay.
We're being good team players, Mr. Co-Chair.
Alright.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean, man, in y'all terms? And you keep saying that we want to be team ball players, but if you need something, you need it. I mean,
It means we're trying to prioritize, if I may respond, trying to prioritize and really present to you what we need the most. There may be other things down the list, but we fully appreciate the difficult position the mayor and you all in the city in general, the city taxpayer, is in. And we fully appreciate that, and we're trying to work and stretch as much as we can. That's what being a good team player means.
I have one point just to share, highlight, or ask really, but whatever. Page 251, road rehabilitation expenditures, goes back a few years through this year. That's essentially the paving line that we like to talk about, correct? But I'm not sure if that includes the pothole dollar figures as well or not. I don't think it does, so.
Road rehabilitation expenditures counts everything.
That includes everything.
Yep, if we spent money on fixing roads, I put it in.
Okay, because there, it looks like there is a separate line for pothole repair?
Yeah.
Well, then it breaks it down, yep,
Okay.
but everything is in that first number. And
Okay.
then we're asked for the other items, and so I try to comply and answer
Sure.
those.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so, we talked a little bit earlier in our budget discussions about money available for paving. And we know there's something of a plan scheduled to get our city roads up to speed. And we know it can't happen overnight. I mean, it could, but we'd have to borrow like crazy. But that's just something to keep in mind. Reverend Lee, go ahead.
Thank you. If there's a possibility, like, those have the long roads, I'll just, for my district, for example. Okay, you have Chapter Hill Road, that long. You have, Platt Street, you have, roads like that. If we put down that we want those roads paved, more than likely we can't get anything else.
That's right.
If there's a way that, the neighborhood, just not the north end, but all the end. If there's a way that when we have roads like that, there should be something special set aside so that those roads can get paved. If in Platt Street is in my district, if I ask for that road to be paved, I probably can't ask for anything else because it's so long, And the same thing with Chapter Hill and Reservoir Avenue and places like that. And I'm sure that in other districts, you all have the long roads like that too. Have we ever thought about having some kind of plan or something that those roads could be paved separately or whatever, or ask us for money so those roads could be paved? You know what I'm talking about, because I did put down Platt Street. They did Platt Place, which is this long, but not Platt Street, which is way out there. Yeah.
To the chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, the way the budget is that on an annual basis that you see that we don't receive too much funding when it comes to paving, that the 3 million that we see on average has to go a long way. It takes where, the 3 million that's split between 10 districts, so it's $300,000 per district. But it's not just where you do like the paving, it's where you have to take care of preventative maintenance at the same time. So you have it where loops that come into place, curving that comes into place. You have it where any ADA like requirements might come into place and other things. So it's where that 300,000 is kind of stretched, and with the cost sometimes going up, it's like you said, you can't get a lot out of that money. We requested in the beginning that we get an increase in paving because it just benefits the council people and their districts. So it's those long streets. It's hard to say to put money aside for it because it's just going to take away from that big number. What we can do is that we can try to reach out to Easlene and her team and apply for some grants. But like what's coming down the pipeline, a lot of grant funding will be limited in the upcoming years. So.
Well, we bond for everything else, and a lot of my council colleagues don't agree. But I think that because we talking about taxpayer, and I have a somewhat new car, when I go down Platt Street, it be bumping all over the place. So so I understand what you're talking about, and that's why I'm saying, because we don't get much for our tax dollar, So at least we can have some nice roads that we can do our car. And I just ask, do you think that there is something we can do besides the grants or whatever else the case might be, that we can present to the mayor and to the council, about those roads like that being paved? That's it. I know we doing what we can with what we have, but there gotta be something that our roads can look better. Can ride better, let me put it like that. I'm a bad driver, so
Okay. Councilman, you all set?
The problem is that we don't spend the money that we got for roads to be paid. you look at our budget, we don't spend all the money in paving that we could. We
Really?
don't do that. We'll talk about that. But there's gotta be a way. Now, you know, I don't see any problem with bonding to do the long roads. 30-year bonds, those roads, the ones that haven't been paved, it has to be over 30 years. 40 years. And y'all already know, we asked you about Ridgefield and some of the areas that, those are long streets. They'll never get paved. Not with the kind of monies they give us to pave streets. 'Cause that would eat up all the money, you're absolutely right. So maybe the council, we need to look at some of this bonding monies that we haven't utilized. And start looking at some of these long streets, putting it towards that, because if you pave it right, it'll last 30 years. Unless utilities come out and mess them up. And then it's the city's job to go after them to fix it. So I do know that we really need to do it, because some of those streets will never get paid based on the amount of money that we get to pave our streets, especially the long ones. And they're all over the city. So we need to look at that. Yeah.
Through the chair. Oh, yeah. I had the opportunity to sit with many of you at the table, you know, just to talk about paving. And then what we try to do is put that plan in place with the council people, you know, in those districts. Those long streets, we try to piecemeal it. So we might not be able to do it where it's all in one shot, but we like to do maybe, you know, in sections and in portions. But I know it gets hard as we try to keep it where it's consistent in years, because there's other priorities that take place. And like once you said, utilities companies, sometimes that we might have a plan, but then we get thrown with an audible because a utility company might have some type of emergency work on it. But one of the things, once again, I'm gonna speak on is that you guys giving us opportunity to rebuild that permit department. And what they have been doing is saving the city a lot of money by policing the utilities. So we have it where they're holding them to the ordinance to do either curb to center line or curb to curb. And I told him to make sure he keeps track of that, because the savings that you would see from making it at the cost of the utility company is beneficial. I think that so far this year, from, you know, the way that they policed the aquarium, I think brought in probably like 600,000, if not more, that we can put back into paving. So, you know, so it's not, they're doing a great job. So.
Yeah. And we gotta take credit when we can. We did help fund those positions.
Correct. So we thank you.
And vice versa.
That's right,
All right.
we did do it.
Yeah.
Council President.
So, just joking, I just told Fred, you need to give Auntie a little Christmas gift and increase our LoSiP fund so we can get those streets paved. But my point to that is, my joke about, the reason I said that is because we can, and the council can do this, and it just came to my mind, that we can, each year, these long roads like Main Street, which is hard to get paved, Chapsy Hill, Old Town Road, we can carve out a portion of LoSiP funds that we're gonna dedicate for the city, so it doesn't come out of the council members' 300,000. So we can talk to public facilities about carving out some of those LoSiP funds. And if Fred and the delegation can get us a couple of more, maybe we can get a couple of more longer streets done. And we can continue that as a practice. So one, and as Ernie said, use some of that old bonding money to start that. So we just have to create an action plan with public facilities. Because we can say, you know, a certain amount, we wanna do A, B, and C Street, and, cause they're the longest streets, and then, get those finally done, cause those are roads that I go up and down too. And sometimes it feels like I'm driving in Beirut, like it's all bumpy, a bunch of holes, like landmines went off on the street, so. I say, before we make our final decisions, we go back, we look at what Ken is anticipating, and maybe this year we can look at the longest, worst streets we have in the city, and maybe pick up one or two of them.
Yeah, they can tell us which are the worst ones.
That's a bargain, that's negotiation, now Fred, get us some money.
That's right, that'll work. Please, Freddie, please.
All right, one last question on roadway. I'm looking at page 255, there's other services, there's a little bit of a bump there. I mean, it was actually bumped last year, and it's still there, so I don't remember what that was or what the thought on that is. Towards the bottom, it's object number 56180 under, or special services, yeah.
Paul has an answer for you.
Okay, good, sorry. Thank you.
Basically, that line, the vast bulk of it is directly relating to parking meter and parking collections. It's almost all revenue driven. In other words, the more revenue you bring in, the more this expense goes up. Somewhere around 5 or 6 years ago, council made it clear that what we would normally call a revenue share, you all didn't want to see it just as a reduction in revenue, you wanted to see it on the expense side. So this is the expense side. So this number goes up when revenues go up.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. You're welcome. All right, moving on to sanitation recycling, 258. Again, Frank, I don't think there's a lot here, but go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just scrolling to the page.
Sure.
Yeah, so not enough here, not a lot here, not a lot of position changes. And operating budget is generally the same. The one thing I'll say is there are seasonals related to sanitation and recycling, but they're budgeted in the, I believe the roadway maintenance is where they're paid out of. So that would be the only note that I have here, but otherwise I have nothing else.
While we're here, Mr. Chair, one of the things that I may have been touched on earlier is what we charge at the transfer station for commercial haulers, not residential. That number hasn't moved in 20 years maybe. It's been $89.50. That always was enough to cover the tip fee that we pay, along with some amount of administrative cost in terms of having to bill for that and collect it. That is about to go underwater, meaning the tip fee, because of the situation with our contract, we're about to be paying more to tip than we're collecting in the charge for that commercial tip fee. So we're about to go up pretty significantly in that, to try to put it more in line with where it has been historically. Some of your constituents are likely to call and complain. There are people who are getting a really good deal that are not going to like getting charged more. So heads up. Angry calls are coming if they haven't already come. We're talking again commercial tip fees here, not residential.
Right.
But that's a big deal because we've never been underwater. We're about to be.
They gotta pay, I mean, it's about line.
Pay the price.
So on that, are you talking both primarily at the transfer station? You're talking commercial?
Yes. Yeah, the
Okay.
people that go through the transfer station. I mean, keep in mind,
Yeah.
we the city, are providing a service, a convenience to them. They don't have to go through Resco, and they're avoiding those lines. They're saving themselves time. They come to our transfer station instead. And so, we cannot have them getting a bargain in the process.
Yeah. Okay. Councilman Newton?
Yeah, our transfer station, is it true that we only hire seasonal workers to work at our transfer station? And if that's true, why? Because I heard that, and I thought that was kind of strange, that we would hire just seasonals there. Not have some of our full-time people working over there too. So could y'all help me understand that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair? Yep. Yeah, so currently we have it where we have permanent staff there and we do fulfill the needs of any gaps that we have with seasonals. So once again, I don't know if you have visited our transfer station, but it gets a lot of compliments of the condition that it's in. So we do have it where our weight master is at, he is a permanent hire, the operators, the guys who run the stuff, the containers back and forth to where they need to be. But for the upkeep is is part of the season. But we do have it where it's a mix.
Because I've heard from some seasonal people there who have been there for a minute, wondering why they never got called up for a full job. And they've been working at that plant for a period of time. And, you know, because I've been up there jumping some stuff, and every time I go up there,
Same season.
every time I go up there, they say, can you talk to Lou? And I said, look, man, I'll see what I can do. But I noticed that, so I wanted to know why seasonals are just stationed there.
So through the chair, so if you look at the positions, when we get to that section, that the laborers that are associated with that position are required to have a CDL because of the equipment that's there. So we always encourage our seasonals to obtain that CDL because it will put them to the, like, I guess, top of the list when it comes to permanent employee. So a lot of them, they're their own worst enemies, and they don't take the initiative to, you know, look for additional funding to help them receive that. But the ones that do, like I said, they do become candidates for permanent hires. So.
All right.
So I guess my question would be, on the tipping, fee for the commercial rate, do we need to change that through ordinance, or can that be enacted within your role? And where's our revenue on that?
I can answer the second part more easily than the first part.
Through the chair. So for the first part, it is in city attorneys at this time. So city attorneys is reviewing the request for a resolution of the old ordinance to be increased. So it will be coming in front of ordinance committee probably within the next couple of months. So you'll be seeing that.
Can you share what the proposal is?
Yeah, I think so there's multiple breakdowns of the proposal. So roughly right now, that it hasn't been concluded on yet. I think that we talked that it was gonna go up, I think, $120. That's, huh?
To 120 or by
120.
To 120.
I think so, that's the last time I
120,
heard.
yeah, 120. That's what the increase is.
From
88.
89.50.
Yeah.
Sorry.
80 to 120. And then there's gonna be like different rules and regulations that are gonna put in place that's gonna require residents that they're held to a certain tonnage, or under a certain amount of tonnage, because what they're doing is they're abusing it. And once, like Mr. Catino said, that this is an easy out for a lot of these people who are working as personal gain compared to residents just looking to empty their trash or clean up, do a yard cleanup. So.
Good, sounds great.
Yeah, and your revenue line is actually, for whatever reason, back in admin, on page 228. It already has been increased on the mayor's proposed, so I would be cautious about trying to jack that more. I'm always of the mind you wanna get some of those revenues in before you really budget too high.
Got it. Thank you. Yep, see it. Good. All right, anybody else on these, on sanitation recycling?
Excuse me,
Yes.
when you say commercial, are you talking about big trucks? Or if like my next door neighbor has a little pickup, and he helps us when we need to dump big stuff, would that person be considered as a business?
Commercial.
Through the chair?
Yeah.
Depending on the amount of tonnage that he does in 1 month. So if he exceeds a certain limit, because he's charging, like, let's not say you, but he might have it where he's charging everybody in your neighborhood, and he's bringing it into the city and he's dumping, then we will charge him. Because once we take it on, then the city, more manpower that we need to operate it, and then it comes a higher cost for us. So,
But can't you see the difference between this little hoopty who took somebody's mattress, somebody's refrigerator, and even if he does it frequently, he is helping us or whomever, because, I mean, I could perhaps go dump it at an empty lot, but I chose to call this man to help me probably pay him $25 to just take it away. And now we're gonna increase this dollar amount, which will hurt that little guy.
Kinda hurts my heart that you say you're dumping in the alley, but we ain't gonna talk about that. No, like, we always root for the little guy, but once again, if they're operating as a business, it's not where he can do it at the benefit of the city, because at the end of the day, we're struggling, we're trying to make sure that we have the proper people in place or stay within our limits, so that once we pick up additional costs and it's additional manpower that take for all the stuff that he's bringing in, it becomes our challenge, our burden and everything like that. So it's one of those things that it has to be put in place, because we don't wanna hurt the little guy, but there's so many other people that are taking advantage. So if you outweigh it, it's just like, it's definitely needed, so. Taking a big hit.
And to our deputy, Aaron, the city's taking a big hit because, for every dump that goes there, the city has to pay. Whether it's metal, whether it's cardboard, whether it's branches, whether it's leaves, I mean, I think it was Saturday, the line was around the corner on Boston Avenue. And you can tell that a lot of those individuals who were in line were not household garbage only.
That's right.
You have people that wear business shirts that are going there to dump. I mean, I just sent Aaron a video the other day of someone talking about he uses his pickup truck, which is a raggedy pickup truck, to go pick up garbage and take it to the dump. And I mean, he's probably going to the dump 5 or 6 times a day and probably collecting $200 or $300 from whomever's garbage he's picking up. So, I had called Scott about this before I even knew Aaron was pushing on this ordinance, and when I brought it to Aaron's attention, he already was way ahead of me with it, so I'm happy to see that you all are ahead of the game within your department to increase revenue, because
If you, just through the chair, if you go to Stratford or any other town
yeah, they're paying.
and try to do that, trust me, you're gonna pay.
But again, if you were, I mean, it's costly. But if you take the trash that was picked up today from Arctic and Brooks, and that's just one area. And you compare that to the men for the city of Bridgeport that would have had to work yesterday to clean up that mess. What would have been more costly? Your men working at that lot? Or those volunteers, 15 of them, that picked up all that trash, needles, you name it, and it was there. So again, let's be a little bit.
Okay. Last piece, I'll just share on sanitation, and again, I wanna give a little credit to Mr. Catino, the region that negotiated the tipping fees. We knew it was going up, and it went up last year, and it's gonna go up again this year. So it's about $90 a ton. But out in the open market, you're well over 100. So we're still doing okay, so, take our wins when we can, right? Okay, unless there's anything else, we'll move on to transfer station, which actually we've kind of already touched on. So I don't know if there's much we need to add here. I think it's pretty straightforward, correct, Mr. Frank?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody wanna jump on that, or wanna just kinda keep moving? All right. Unless there's nothing, yep, so we hit the Fair for Child Wheeler and the zoo, and recreation, which brings us to, I think it's, Skorsky, right? Alright, and I just pause for a moment, just want to acknowledge that indeed Councilwoman Valle joined us some time ago, as did Councilman Boyd, and Mr. Norco from the airport is here as well. So, Frank, do you want to speak a little to the airport? That's on 304. Yep, starts on 304. Just if you could, Frank, a little bit what's going on there, and then yep.
Yeah, so for the revenues, we kept those flat. I took those under the consideration of staff at the airport. For positions, an assistant special project manager was reclassified to an accounting clerk too. There's one vacancy in that department. As far as operational expenses go, just utility electric services were just trued up a little bit, just to reflect kind of actuals as a whole, and that's all I have for that department.
Okay. Mr. Norco, would you want to speak to your own department? Any particular issues you want to highlight in terms of revenues, expenses?
Revenues are up, I believe, and we have room to grow there, and that's something that we're going to be doing in the future.
Thank you.
For sure. You know, some leases, we have a temporary tenant in the old Blue Sky hangar, which is great because we had a delinquent tenant in there for years. They were subleased to Atlantic Aviation at one point, and they were having trouble with them, and they no longer wanted to run that hangar, so we took control back, approached by a maintenance company that was maintaining the plane that the delinquent company was using, so and it was broken down, so they were able to, they needed time to get the plane fixed to get it out of the hangar, so they've been in there, and so they've been a great tenant so far. I mean, I can't say they're a permanent tenant, but they've been on time with their payments, and so we went from not making any money on that hangar to making, you know, some pretty decent money on that hangar. It was like $6,000 a month. Yeah. Other than that, so Three Wing took over the Gamma hangar recently, and we were generating about $4,000 a month on that hangar, so now we actually increased that to about $10,000 a month on that hangar, which is good. And let's see. We have to renovate a little bit at the Civil Air Patrol building, and that, the airport, going back to, I guess, the 1950s or so, they allowed Civil Air to occupy that building, and we covered their utility expenses. And once, if we get the money, the capital money to renovate the building, they're gonna have to assume those expenses, so we'll pick up, you know, a little money there on the utility side of things. But yeah, no, we're doing pretty good at the airport.
Okay. Amy Marie?
Are we the owners of the building that had the fire?
Yeah, the one that, the small little building that burned down. Yes,
Right,
yes.
so what's the status on that for
It's gonna
coverage and rebuild, et cetera?
No plans to rebuild that building. It's just it was a small, I don't even know what it's called. It's not a shed, but it dates back to World War II buildings. It's gonna get demoed soon, probably within the next month. So.
Do we lose anything of value that we need to cover for expenses
No.
or anything to add to the budget? Okay.
No, no.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions? Okay, I'm gonna ask two then. Maybe a little awkward, but I'll ask it. You're listed as the manager, are you fully the manager or?
Acting.
Acting,
So,
okay.
acting manager / superintendent, so.
All right, and again, maybe awkward as a follow-up, but do you know what the plan
I know
going
the job's
forward is?
posted, but,
Okay.
I have no idea if anybody's applied for it.
Okay, all right, fair. The other question I have, and just looking at, you know, the monthly reports and all that, and this came up a year ago, and it seemed like you guys kinda got things back in order, but it seems like the reporting on revenues in particular, you get zeros the last couple months, so do you,
Lauren
can you,
takes,
can you
does that stuff.
get us like something
Yeah.
more up to date, so help us with our projections and know really what's going on there. Cause that's helpful to, I mean, the airport, big revenue generator in some regards, and we don't wanna cut ourselves short, but also we don't wanna overreach, but, so if we can get some of that data, that would be terrific. All right. Anything else in terms of
Oh, yes.
airport, council president?
I don't think we've talked about, do you remember, Mr. Norco, when's the last time we raised the fuel foliage fee in the landing rates? 'Cause I think maybe we might.
I think Michelle did it recently. I don't know about the fuel flowage. I'd have to look into that, but I think she increased that, well, within the last few.
Because I know a few months ago during our commission meeting, we were talking about raising some of those fees that we haven't met in a little bit, so if you could just get back to us if there's some wiggle room to raise those fees again,
Yeah, sure, I could research that.
to those are revenue generators.
Sure.
Since we're getting more activity in the airport, like
A
recently,
little bit
so,
here and there,
yeah.
Something we could look at.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just one other question, cause I'm thinking back a couple years ago, we had to use some of our contingency, cause there was some serious vandalism, I think that's a minor way of saying what happened. But I also see we have a liability insurance line, can you speak to what that covers and where we get that insurance? I'm sorry, that's on page 308, about a third of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines under where it says fringe benefits, but it's a operational number.
Covers the building. What was the number again, sorry?
Yeah, it's okay, it's object number 53420 on page 308 in our book, you don't know, our budget book.
I don't recall the name of the company. Pretty sure that's covers the, like, when we had the EMAS problem, I think that's what that helps cover, that kind of, insurance claim. You know, loss of a hangar, so I think that's the one that has that really high deductible.
Okay, catastrophic kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, you know, on the whole, we're self-insured, but, you know, not everybody has an airport either. Avery?
One other question, reading on, social media, we have an event coming up there through the Wasp Plane exhibition.
It's probably the museum.
Okay, but it says it's coming into Bridgeport Airport, so if it's that, you know, what responsibilities and financials, do we need to cover on that besides police, fire?
We don't, they haven't talked to me about any, like, if, you know, anything that they need extra on our
I just
part.
try to look at, my phone's not accepting the internet right now.
Usually,
so-
like, typically, you know, the museum has some kind of an event.
But they said they're having it at the airport.
Yeah, if they have some kind of an event there, we usually like to have one extra person on staff, you know, I call them in on overtime to help cover the airport. It's safer that way, because the way it usually works is we have one operations personnel on staff that covers the fire truck, and then any other things that happen, wildlife sweeps, escort, we have escort duty. We don't allow fuel trucks to cross the runway unless one of our guys is escorting across the runway. So if somebody's having an event that there's pedestrians that are allowed to go on the ramp, which would be fenced off, we usually have somebody there just as a safety precaution to make sure nobody strays away from that event.
It's something to look into, because financially and for liability situations, I think you should notify PD, so they're aware, just in case they need to be there for some sort of service call or backup.
I'll talk to the museum and see what they do.
All right, thank you.
We coordinate with them pretty well. They're very good at letting us know like what's going on.
So that's good. Then while you're doing that, if you have a good report, can you please get Sikorsky's bus back to Bridgeport? That was given to them for some odd reason, which shouldn't have been.
That's a different museum.
Okay, oh, the helicopter museum,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't have any.
Yeah, that should come back to Bridgeport. Thank you.
Frank, you're.
Sorry.
Just to answer on it, I just looked up some data on that liability policy, so looks like it's been around for some time, because as far as I could go back in Munis, there is a policy charge there.
Okay.
Right now, it looks like it's underwritten by Arthur Gallagher, and it would appear that it would maybe just be insurance that we're required to have, maybe to operate an airport.
Okay.
Alright. So,
Alright, anything else? Alright. Alright, so last department for, well, we also have harbor master, but, engineering, Frank, you have to speak first and then move on.
Engineering, I believe that, since the budget was published and up to today, that there is I believe the gentlemen are gonna bring a proposal, to, increase, some of the salaries there. There was an assistant special project manager that's been reclassified to permanent inspectors, no vacancies here. And then very little operational expenses, it's really all personnel.
Alright, so, Louis or whoever.
Through the chair, we apologize, John couldn't make it tonight.
Okay.
But John did want to put in a request for position increase. What he did is he worked with HR along with CCM to do a job analysis on a couple positions that he has within his department. It's for the supervisor of permitting. At the same time, it's for his supervisor of traffic. And then what he was able to find out that those two employees are paid significantly, like 10,000 less than surrounding towns that provide the same or do the same job description. So he was looking to see if, or request that both of those positions be increased $10,000 in this upcoming budget.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good.
Are these positions union jobs?
Yes, sir.
Well, let me, I have a serious problem. Number one, I'm not in the union, but I would think before, that's a union issue, whether we should raise these salaries, I thought that the unions make that determination. So I have a serious problem. Like the council sticking their nose in union business saying, because you don't have to do it for everybody that's in union, so that's what I'm worried about. All right, man.
So through the chair, one of the things that management is obligated to do is that before it becomes a union issue is try to rectify the situation before it happens. Because to turn it into a union issue, then it's bringing myself, his supervisor, the employee, along with the labor staff to come up with a solution to his grievance or request. If we have an opportunity to present it in front of council and get the increases through our regular budget, then it eliminates us wasting time sitting there negotiating, debating it over arbitration and things like that. It takes away from daily operation that employee should be doing. And again, so one of the positions is the position that manages and polices the utility cuts that take place daily throughout the city. Compared to the previous person who held that position, he came in making drastically less than what that person and has put out a lot more. And he's not just utilizing that department, but he definitely is just an asset to public facilities overall.
So you're, let me just help me understand, because I'm not in the union or anything. So you're telling me that the city council could pick a union and say, we're gonna give everybody in that union a $20,000 raise. We can't do that. I don't believe we have the right to do that. That we can sit, without them going through bargaining and negotiation and that whole process. I've never heard where the city council, if you're in a union, I could tell, the city council could tell your union, we're gonna give y'all a $50 raise without any negotiation or anything. I didn't know you could do that. So maybe you're sharing something with me by raising this, and he's in a union. You know, what the other union people would think. Because if you give him a raise, I'm gonna want a raise.
Okay.
But help me understand,
Yeah.
because maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think what the proposal is for the city council to select people to give raises. The request is that they're anticipating that I think this could be something that the labor department potentially works with the union on, and that there may need to be this money if that comes to fruition. So it's maybe budgeting for something that could happen. If the money's not there, then we can't do it, or we may have to find some other means to do it. But it's not, just to be clear, it's not them saying, it's not you guys saying this union's gonna get this percentage increase. It's just money in the budget.
Beverly?
Yeah, is this the same man or person that's over the flooding and is it?
Yes.
You know, I really have a problem tonight, and my problem is that he's never coming for us, and if he come, he's always have to leave early, or whatever the case might be. And I'm gonna add this too. I remember maybe about 2 months ago, the fire chief made a presentation to the council, and didn't you remember, right? We fought that night, right? Yeah, we did. And the other thing is that, and then a couple nights later, he was said you can come if you so desire. You don't have to come. And you would have thought that man committed murder. This one here, there's a lot of questions that I want to ask him because of the flooding, and he can't keep pushing his role off on somebody else. And if anybody around this table know, he either have an emergency somewhere, or he don't show, or something like that. And being a council person, you know, I take issue with that. I really take issue with it. Because as far as I'm concerned, if it's fair for the goose, it's fair for the gander. And I think that he should come here. If he asks for something, don't tell me. Don't tell somebody else what you want. You come and tell us what you want. If you too busy to come, then you need to give up that job and give it to me, and you go do that little job that I have teaching, making no money. So there you go. That's just my opinion now. I have a right to my opinion, but I'm very annoyed with him, and I'll tell him to his face. I'm not talking behind his back. I'm telling him to his face.
I hear you.
Thank you very much.
Can I make a suggestion? Since he's not here, I don't want, he needs to be here. You know, and me and Scott discussed this, that if the department heads don't bring enough to come and talk about what they want, then we shouldn't even be listening to it. And I know emergencies happen, things happen, but he should be here, saying to us, this is what I need, this is why, or that's right. So I'm gonna ask that we move on from here, and if he can if we have some time for him to come, let him come, because he can speak better for himself.
Call him back.
Okay,
Well,
Councilwoman here?
We'll move on in a second. You know, we're giving these raises, and we brought it up again yesterday. We're giving 14, 10, 8, and the lower salaries get 3%, and they continue to get just the 3%, which is maybe $1,000, maybe it's whatever. but we need to put in an evaluation process, because I get evaluated every year. I'm part of the union. It's on the other end of the spectrum, but they're the same unions that we have in this table and in these jobs. It's not difficult. I know CAO is supposedly working on something great, wonderful. It hasn't been done yet, and I'm really looking forward to having that done. And it's not a negotiation process with the unions because it's in their contracts. So it just has to be done. Everybody should be evaluated, from the top to the bottom. And that, I wouldn't have a problem giving a $10,000 increase if we know he's done a great job, or she's done a great job, or they've done a great job. Then have the concrete information to prove it to us. So I know I'm gonna be batting a brick, but I'm gonna keep on batting that brick until it breaks.
I don't wanna speak for Bridgeport, it's the only city that I know, cause I live here.
Yeah.
We give raises, people don't get evaluated, they don't go through no, how'd you do, did you reach your goal?
Alright, yep, we've been through it, Alright, is there anything else on engineering, from the department heads, that you wanna touch on? Yeah,
I think it's really
Council
important that, that Mr. Yergwoody comes in, because there are projects that we have both on capital. And if we're talking about necessity, and I know that some of these positions are specialized, and maybe they're specialized positions, I don't know, I can't speak to it. 'Cause I don't work in engineering, and I'm not an engineer, but Councilwoman Lee's point, he should be here, because there are other questions that are part of his goals that we do really need to know. And we just had the conversation about using LoSiP for paving, so he's the one who can give us the best answers outside of Deputy Director Curry on that stuff, so we need to call him back on another day.
Mr. Curry, nothing against you, okay, love? No, that's you, not you, you know I love you with all my heart.
And I love you back, I appreciate
Alright,
it.
the one piece, I would just say, because I know the last couple of years at least, we've talked about under engineering, flooding and the bridges and all that. Obviously, in this context, we want to talk in terms of the dollars, but I think maybe ECD&E or Public Safety and Transportation committees could have in Mr. Queedy and company to get a solid update about what's what. So, yeah. We haven't really talked about any of the capital needs coming out of public facilities, so I don't know if, well, you wanna speak to it?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Two of our highest priorities, going way back to the bullets that we opened the meeting with, two of our highest priorities are capital issues. Sidewalks and paving. Sidewalks, we requested 2 million, the mayor's recommended has 1 million. We haven't really requested anything for sidewalks, we've been living off of what we had for close to 10 years. But the time is now to start to replenish. 2 million is really what's needed. We had a meeting also with the council president, where perhaps even 2.5 was suggested. So somewhere in that 2.5 is really realistic, because there's several things that are pushing us in a, I don't want to say a new direction, but aggressively in a particular direction. Certainly we're getting more aggressive in terms of ADA compliance, and we need to. And as Aaron was talking about, and we talked about earlier, the permit inspectors are helping us really understand what our responsibilities there are. So that's very important. The city attorney's office also, on a slightly separate topic, is, you've all read the paper, you've all somewhat, I imagine, been brought up to speed in terms of increased liability and the need for the city to be more active in addressing those needs. They've got a new manual, if you will, that they're going to be briefing us on, and that is going to become a procedure for us. I don't want to get ahead of them, but that is, in my judgment, clearly going to cost more. I'm not saying that in a critical way, it's just the reality. We've talked about making sure that that we cover the ADA ramps in any curb cuts out of sidewalks as well. So there's a number of things that are pushing us. Oh, and by the way, the 50/50, if that's going to be re-upped. Now, last fall, we took the revenues that had been received from its inception until then and rolled them in with everyone's authorization and rolled them in. So that revenue has largely been made available. It's only going to last so long, and if you're going to re-up the 50/50 with a new pool of money, then that's going to have to come here too. So I'm making the plea here for $2 million at a minimum, really, not the $1 million the mayor's recommended. We did speak with OPM. I think he's largely on board, maybe not happy, but I do think it's a shared sense that this is a real need. The city council president, I'll allow to speak to the 2.5 if she wants to.
Yeah, I will. Well, yes, I will. The point is that we are non-compliant. Councilwoman Vizza has told us this for many, many years, and we are hitting the wall. We have hired an ADA compliance coordinator who we have many miles. So there was a big argument about the paving money. The paving money that were allocated also included the curb cuts and the ADA, which is totally a different cost because the city has to assume that, because that's also part of what the city attorneys are talking about, that we're responsible for that. And that, you know, those homeowners that have the curb cut, have the corner lots, they were assuming that responsibility in their sidewalk program to have the ADA. So the reason I said we should raise it to 2.5 and to make that access, because we have to we are required, because we are all we've been on notice that we have to get that done. So either, again, we look at the way we're reprogramming LoSiP funds, or we do the bonding. And I know that, you know, we like to hold back on a lot of money, but that's a lawsuit. We've already had 2 $1 million lawsuits, you know, I'm being sarcastic, about a tree in Blackwater and the mayor's sister falling. So, you know, we don't want to keep having those kind of, you know, embarrassing moments in our city.
No names, please.
Well, it's public information. And that is the snowball that has made this, that is making the avalanche happen. Those 2 snowballs are creating a big avalanche in our city. So we can be proactive, and I hate to say, we want to give you more money for this, because, you know, I don't like to give money either. We're always trying to be frugal in our spending and the way we plan for stuff, but I would rather put the money where we're not gonna have the liability, because now we're on notice for the whole city. And it's not that it happened in one street, it was publicly put out there, so now we are really on liability and on accountability, and as Mark would say, once we know, we gotta pay.
All right, so there's the plea on sidewalks, Frank. Do you want to talk to paving?
Yeah, so,
Only when your mouth's full. I'll cover you for a second. All right, just so, yeah, and Amy Marie too. When we first started looking at capital a couple weeks ago, you know, we did bring up the issue of sidewalks and the, kind of the opinion of the city attorney, so we know we're a little bit on the hook there. You know, putting it back out to bid, something like that, might also be in our interest, but,
Yes,
you know,
putting it back out to
that's,
bid, more competitive.
that's, a consideration. Amy Marie, then you can jump in.
No, it's, like I said, it is something, but it's not just liability on the city. We're gonna be held liable on the state and the federal side too, because we're not in compliance, which we haven't been in years. And I've brought this up many times, like I had mentioned about what I do as co-chair of Miscellaneous Matters. I hear all these things, and it's terrible. We were proactive in the early 2000s, and we got going, and then about 10, 11 years ago, it just stopped. So I think we need to look into that to get it more, and I wouldn't mind looking into some more, you know, bonding and LoSiP money and adding it up to 3.5. If you start a little higher, you can at least get to where you want. If you start lower, they're gonna cut that. So if you need 3.5 and we're only gonna get 2.5, I'd start at the higher point, and we might get lucky to get that money to then clean up our city and make it less liability and take care of it, and then have a program, have a policy procedure book, and have someone follow it to take care of it on a regular basis, to do inspections. Because it's taken months and years to get these things done. And again, when the city's on notice, that adds to the dollar amount. So I can go through that time and time again, but it's, no matter how many times I can talk, it falls on deaf ears because it becomes a political football.
It's my last time tonight, I promise. I think that the city should be responsible for those sidewalks
They are.
and not the homeowner.
Yeah, the city's
Because,
100%.
you know, why should I pay for a sidewalk that's going through my, I don't have sidewalks on my street. But why should I pay for a sidewalk that belongs to the city and I'm responsible for it? If somebody fall, I'm responsible for them falling in front of my house. To me, that's nonsense. And then if I had money to do a sidewalk, you know, a lot of us don't have extra money to do no sidewalk. It's the city sidewalk, they should be the one that fix it. That's all I gotta say, without tax money.
Well, like I said before, and I'm closing with this, if the city starts fixing sidewalks, y'all are gonna reimburse all those people who got into the shared plan, cause it's not fair. And I'm gonna be leading the charge.
You always pay to have to fix that sidewalk in front of your house. You the one that fixed, you the one, nobody told you to fix it.
All right. We've all been warned. We'll bring it back to Mr. McNary here.
So just on the paving and the mayor's proposed plan, there is a number of $3 million. In the, a couple weeks back, there was a number that was floated as available of around $7 million. That number did not, though, include encumbrances for the spring program, so actually, as of today, available for paving is about $2.8 million that Public Facilities Department has plans for the fall. So I think at the very least the $3 million is appropriate. And then their original request is $7 million, so that would be something that the council looks maybe at to maybe potentially increase that paving number, maybe by moving a couple things around in the capital plan. So if you guys have anything to add, but that's a pretty good summary, I think.
Well, we knew it was gonna be higher than 2.5. We knew that.
Yeah. All right, so I'm kind of glossing over Harbor Master, but there's really not much there, so we're okay, and we've got a good one. We'll leave it at that. So just looking ahead to Saturday, we're gonna have the finance department speaking to us, and the fire department. I'll forward along the presentation from fire. And then we're gonna talk a lot more about capital, particularly the Board of Ed, because we know there's some proposals and changes out there. I believe we have all been emailed from George Garcia and Superintendent Avery, some of those details about the changes, so I just kindly ask that you go back, find those in your emails or in your piles, and read through those a little bit to come in prepared. Because it's a not insignificant ask of the city, and there are different views, shall we say.
Yes. You brought up Harbor Master, I'm gonna go real quick. There's
Okay.
nothing listed as revenue. Back years ago, there used to be revenue. What happened to that?
Through the chair, I think she's referring to mooring fees.
Right, and
I
then we
don't
did
know
something
that-
with gas too, I think, at one time.
I
Fuel.
don't know about the fuel, but I know the mooring fees doesn't show up in any of our revenue lines.
That's OPM.
That's OPM, so.
It used to show up in.
Kathleen can answer.
It's in a revolving account,
Okay.
so it's not under general fund.
Correct.
It's on its own.
And that includes any grants that they get, correct? Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, we're all good?
Yep.
To adjourn?
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
I think Mr. Paoletta seconded that.